to the Coach V Show.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your show for personal and professional development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life, offering for your consideration life lessons, success frameworks, and behavioral models so that you, me, and we can achieve our dreams, hopes, and aspirations. But the main point, here's the main point, so that you take that success and translate it into what I call the juice of life, the joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, love, and family time that I am all about. And for your consideration on this show and every week to also apply and deploy into your life. Where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. I am juiced to have on the show today, Mr. Jon Nielsen. Today's guest feature on the Coach V Show of my man, who is an expert in the lifestyle marketing industry. He is also currently a coach, advisor, and manager. The former Cerritos High standout at QB played professional football with stints with the Raiders, AFL New York City Harks, CFL Toronto Argonauts, AFL New Jersey Red Dogs, AFL 2 Arkansas Twisters, XFL days with the Birmingham Thunderbolts, CFL Toronto Argonauts, and these were from the years 1996 to 2001. Sports is all over Jon's history and socially, having served in junior high, high school, and travel club in various capacities from head coach, coordinator, recruiting, owner, and or manager in the sports of football, baseball, and softball. He parallels those same passions and skills in business, helping so many greats in music and sports like Kolten, Wong, and Boys to Men, generating deals and to achieve their goals in the realms of lucrative business deals and lifestyle marketing opportunities. Founder of Aquaries Group LLC, which works with the likes of the Palms Hotel and Resort, Brand Jordan, Outcast Clothing, just to name a few. His motion sports management does motion capture for a majority of just sports and video games, but particularly EA's NFL Madden, EA's NCAA football, EA's NBA Live, EA's NCAA basketball, just to name a few. Excited to share Jon Nielsen's extensive success and history here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. Brother Jon, welcome to the Coach V Show, brother. How you living?
There he is. Hello, Coach V. Thank you for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Brother, the pleasure is mine. Man, we hear and talk about so many people being focused. Hey, this is what I wanted to do when I was young, and this is what I planned for. I went to college for this, and I did this. Jon Nielsen's story is a little bit different. Take your time, Jon. Take us through your genesis point, your starting. Where did you grow up, and what was the early parts of who Jon Nielsen is?
So, born in Inglewood, raised in Cerritos. My older brother was a world champion kickboxer back in the 80s. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was one of the pioneers of mixed martial arts. So I kind of grew up around martial arts and that whole scene, the Jet Center, Benny Urquidez. That's the first people that my brother was managed by. So for me, at an early age, I played all the sports. Didn't really. My dad was he was retired LAPD, but he was a banker when I knew him growing up, because I have three older brothers, so there's a 10-year gap between my youngest brother and myself. So three of my brothers grew up in Crenshaw. My parents all lived in Crenshaw and all that stuff, and then they moved to Cerritos and had me. So I was supposed to be the girl. That's why I have all the earrings and those kind of fancy things. And my dad would make fun of those things growing up as well. But so I got introduced to sports at a young age through the city of Cerritos. My dad coached quite a bit of my teams. And, I just kind of was athletic, didn't really know what I was doing, and just kind of played everything. And then I started throwing the ball. I remember one time there was a carnival at Gar High School, and they had the dunk tank, right? So it was like $1 for 10 balls. Well, guess what? I had 10 in a row.
Wow.
And they were amazed. I must have been like 10 years old. And then they said, do one more time. So they gave me 11th ball and bang, dropped it. So that kind of started my whole kind of thing about pitching. So I was playing little league and didn't really pitch. And then the coach was like, "Hey, can you pitch?" I was like, "I'll go give it a try." Well, next thing you know, I go in there and shut it down. So it was one of those things where it was kind of, I was like a fish in water on certain things, just kind of did things, didn't really know. My dad got me some private coaching, some different things. But yeah, so my introduction to sports was kind of early on. And then I went to Cerritos, played 3 different sports, played football, basketball, and volleyball. Kind of got burned out of baseball, so I didn't really play much in high school because I was burnt out of daddy ball. Let me kind of talk about that later if you want to. That whole culture of daddy ball. And, my dad coached me to a certain point and then he didn't. And then everybody else who I played for as I got older, their kid was the pitcher. So this is going back, in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's stuff's been going on that's kind of relevant now, back then, and didn't really have a name. So did that, played football, and it's kind of unique. There was 3 guys on my high school football team that played professional sports. Ricky Credo played in MLB for a little bit. Todd McMillan played 7 years with the Bears, and then myself. So, and we were 2-8 my junior and senior year. So we weren't very good, but we had a lot of talent. Right. And hindsight, it was coaching, right? So that was one of the reasons why I started coaching, is because as I got older and kind of realized what kind of happened, I wanted to make sure that people didn't have that same experience I had.
Right.
So everything I wanted my head coach to do that he didn't do, I made sure I did. So to my testament, right. I became that. And 30 kids got scholarships under my watch when I was offensive coordinator at GAR. 2 of my kids are on year 5 in the NFL, and I still advise those kids. So I mean, for me to kind of go that trajectory was kind of cool to kind of experience it. And when you're playing in high school, you don't know any better. Right. You're going to do what your coach says, and you don't realize how bad things are until you get out of it. And then they kind of go back into it and put everything that I wanted back into it for my kids. It allowed me to cultivate a streamline. I mean, we had the number 1 offense in the state of California for 6 years in a row when I was a guard. I mean, people forget that now, but during that time, you go back and look at all those max prep stuff. We were 1 and 2 in state, not just Southern section, in the whole state for a long time. And it was kind of cool because I got to coach 2 of my nephews that were, at the time I stopped coaching there, they were number 2 and 3 all time in state history. Now they're still top 10, but they're like 8 and 9. So it's kind of cool to have their names in the record books. They both got athletic scholarships to go play in college. So for me, the goal has always been, for high school coaching at least, was to get a kid a scholarship, to give a kid a chance. Because again, if I was coaching at a private school making 6 figures, then we have to win. But my philosophy has been, if we don't have to come in first, if I'm getting 4 or 5 kids out a year. And I would have always an argument with the head coach. He's like, "Oh, we got to win league titles." Like, for what? I was like, how many kids did that school get that one came in first place? They got nobody out. How many did we get out? 4? So you tell me who's changing lives. So you tell me who's changing lives. So again, that kind of cultivated my passion to coach. And even when I was playing professionally, that was so ingrained in what I did. I was always looking for something else to do. So I was the locker room lawyer. I was always a bridge between the players and the coaches and management. So I was a guy that would go talk to the owner about getting meal deals for my other guys. And when a funny story. So when I played arena football,
so you were cutting business deals while you were a player for other players.
Oh, I had to. So how it worked in arena football too, when it first started, they could only pay for one person's apartment. So obviously it was mine and one of my receivers. So what I did is I went out and I got deals all around town. So Popeyes was a sponsor. So I got to know all the managers in Little Rock. So what happened was, every night they would tell me, "Hey, come through before we close. We're going to give you all the food we have." So I'd literally come home every night with like 6 bags of chicken, all that stuff, dirty rice, jambalaya, and I would just bring it to my apartment. All the guys in the team would come over and grab stuff, So that was kind of cool. So I always looked out for everybody else. I negotiated a car deal, and so I mean, it's kind of funny. And then the video game side of things kind of turned into every off season I had when I was playing, whether it was NFL, CFL, whatever. I'd always do commercial work.
Right.
So there was like a small group of guys that would do all the commercial and stunt work for all these different commercials. And I got hired for NFL Fever, Microsoft,
Right.
when Peyton Manning was the guy. So I did all Peyton Manning's quarterback motions.
Right.
So I did that. I got to know the guy that ran it, Ben Camerano. And when I went to go play arena, they were still shooting. So he was like, "Hey, can you work?" I was like, "I can't work." He's like, "Well, do you have some friends?" So I was like, "Oh, let me start an agency because now I'm getting other guys to work. So I got to find a way to get my commission." So then that's how motion sports management started. So when I was away, I still had a team of guys that I would go, my guys would pay me a commission. And then obviously Microsoft would pay me a commission. And then those guys from Microsoft moved to EA. So EA hired me. So I worked on Madden for about 7-8 years.
Wow.
And then all the different 2K basketball games and NBA Live. So it was kind of, I was the guy. We worked with Sony and all those different things. So it was kind of fun. And then I kind of took a break from that. And then recently, one of my guys, David Ortiz, who was the main producer on Madden for those years, he's got a new venture. So I got to assemble a whole new crop of motion capture talent. So it's kind of a fun thing to kind of still kind of have, you get a reputation in the industry about doing good work. And, it doesn't matter if it's 5-10 years down the road, people call you because they remember what you did. So
Right.
that's kind of a fun thing to kind of have happen. That was recent too. Like I said, the video game industry for me kind of dried up when everything went to social gaming,
Right.
on your iPhone. So there wasn't really a need for, other than first person shooter games and different things on the console. It wasn't, much going on. So now it's kind of fun to kind of jump back in there and kind of navigate that for some of these guys.
That's interesting. So being a sports guy, and to me, other than being on the streets and learning some hard life lessons when I was younger, growing up in Pomona, I do believe that sports teaches so many valuable life lessons. Let's stay high school, college, right before you went to Fresno State, and then, finishing off at Claremont McKenna, right down the street from Pomona, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Off of where I grew up from.
Yes.
Let's talk life lessons that you learned, particularly from sports, Jon.
So I could tell you this. So the biggest thing that I learned is not everybody's your friend. Not everybody's going to tell you the truth.
That's right.
Recruiting is a cold world. So let me just tell you this. So I was at Fresno State. I was a walk-on, and I won the Coach Sweeney Scout Team Award.
Right.
My redshirt year, because I was everybody's quarterback, right? So I was Jeff Garcia when he was at San Jose State. I did all these different things. So I would go out there and give my all. And the defense guys would tell me, "Hey man, slow it down because you're making us look better." I'm like, "Come on, man, I'm trying to get you better." So early on, I grinded different. I did things different than most people did. I don't know why. It just felt like that to me. I would go watch tape in the defensive coordinator in Coach Rob's office. I go watch defensive film. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to get you guys better. I'm trying to, figure out what they're doing." So, so I understood the work that it took to get to that level. So for me, it was a big deal to go from the scout team locker room to the big house.
Right.
And just a small win. The small wins were cool because, that's kind of how you get recognized, by putting the work in. It's not by the flash, about being a big recruit. It's about, do your peers and your teammates respect you? And I think that anywhere I've been, they're always going to tell you that, oh, that guy did his job. As I got older, I got flashier, but the early part, it's all about the grind. So I could tell you, from when I transferred from Fresno to Long Beach City, that's when Coach Reisbig's first year back there, when he was, he came back there, kind of a big deal. I was going to go to Mount Sac. Right. I talked to the Mount Sac people. Montana State wanted me because our defensive coordinators went there. I could have went to Montana State, but I wanted to come back home. Went to Long Beach. Then I ended up going to Long Beach. And Coach Reisbig put me on the phone with Coach Shepard, who was at Cal.
Right.
And phone call, handwritten letter. I still got the letter. Look forward to watching you this season. Cool. So we grinded that whole summer. First game didn't go. I forget who we played. Didn't go too well. I was like 9. I still remember I was 9-23. Didn't work out too well. So the next game, they started a freshman kid. Then I was supposed to go in. Then never went in. So it was one of those things where JC football is not everything people tell you it's going to be. Right. So if it wasn't for a man named Mark Robbins, Coach Rob, people will know. Long Beach people will know Coach Rob. If it wasn't for him in my life, I probably would have, gave up and quit and all those different things. So he was the first person in my life that sat me down and said, "This is a test. You're better than this." So I persevered through that whole season, and didn't play. I got in a couple of things here and there, but it wasn't what I expected it to be. So my recruiting after coming back to Long Beach City, I ended up going to Redlands because they threw out the kitchen sink for me. They ran a wing T, archaic offense, but they ran a wing T, wanted to change. Well, I go there and play 2 seasons, and they didn't change the offense. And their head coach, Coach Maynard's excuse to me was, "Oh, the players around you aren't as good as you, so we can't change." And I was like, "Are you serious?" The offensive coordinator was the baseball coach. So that tells you the kind of sophistication they had. So I was like, there's got to be something more than this. So I knew the quarterback at Claremont, and they threw the ball. So I was like, "Hey, I got a year. Let me transfer." So in the SCIAC, no one's ever done that. No one's ever transferred within the conference at that time.
Right.
So I did it, and both presidents made me sign a letter saying that I wouldn't transfer back and graduate. There was all different kind of things that were going on. So I signed it and went there, had a great season. I mean, statistically, I was, top 3 in the nation that year, throwing the football. And I had another kid, Burnell Rokes, that signed with the Atlanta Falcons that year. So Rick Candell, who was my coach at Claremont, was another big turning point in my whole pro career, and a young man's career. Because me, I'm thinking I'm going to go to Claremont and play, and then transfer back to Redlands and graduate on time. Not the most ethically great thing to do, but I was going to do that. Young mind. He comes out to me one day. I'm stretching at practice and says, "Hey, I heard what you're trying to do." He goes, "Let me just tell you this." He goes, "I went out on a limb to get you in here." He goes, "I really would like you to finish here and graduate with me here." Just because, I expect that, and just walked away. And I'm like, "Oh, wow. Okay." So I did. And there was another man named Dr. Ballitzer that kind of took me under his wing and navigated me. And I graduated with a degree from Claremont McKenna College, which wouldn't have been a possibility out of high school for me, because academically, that's Claremont's top 3 in liberal arts. There's no way my scores would have got me in there, but I have a degree from there. And the people that helped me navigate that, I'm forever indebted to. So from my experience with Coach Candell keeping me there, I tore it up, and I signed a free agent deal with the Raiders that year. And, from there, my sports career kind of took off. Was with the Raiders, and then 96, part 97, went to Canada and Toronto in 98. And so John Jenkins is another big mentor in my pro career. He was University of Houston head coach when Andre Ware, David Klinger were throwing all those crazy numbers. So I worked out for him, and he signed me. So I played for him for 3 years of my pro career. And to get signed, my first contract in Canada, I went to 6 workouts.
Right.
Everywhere. I flew to Canada to work out, Toronto to work out. And I beat out guys from Miami, Florida, Alabama. I mean, you name it, I sent those guys packing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, I appreciated the contract because I knew what it took to get me there. I beat out all these guys. I wasn't given something because of where I went to or where I came from. He liked the way I threw on film, had me come out there, and he was one of those guys where he would line everybody up. Didn't matter where you were from, height, weight, whatever. Let me see you go through one of my workouts. And he would do it by attrition. He would run you for an hour and a half. Receivers started dropping off. Quarterback's arms hurt. So it was like survival of the fittest. So I did that 6 times, and I got signed. So he signed me twice in Canada, and then when he got the head job in Arkansas, he signed me there to make me his quarterback. So
a key theme as you're telling that, Brother John, is I think of mentorship. You talk about Coach Rob, right? At the LBC, right?
Yes.
You talk about Campbell, right? John Jenkins.
Coach Candell. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, so how now bridge that to today into you becoming the mentor, not just in sports,
in life,
but like in business, right?
Sure. So I think you take all those things away because certain people have a certain tunnel vision on what they're doing. They think they're untouchable and think they're doing different things. They need that voice that's going to tell them, hey, you got to kind of look at things from this perspective and kind of maybe think about doing this.
Right.
So I think as long as you challenge somebody and you give them good input, they're going to respect you. And you're not just that rah guy in someone's camp that's just saying, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I think some of the downfalls that you'll see with sports and entertainment people is they have too many rah guys in their corner that don't kind of tell them kind of real, so they just think they're doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden they're not relevant anymore. So for me, that's kind of the cool factor is, outside of money and those different things, just when people call you that have multi-million-dollar contracts and ask for advice on things, I mean, they're not calling anybody else. They're asking you, what do you think? What do you think your opinion is on this? Or as some of the guys get older, it's like, how do I be a leader when I'm the older guy on the team now? So they ask me these different life things. So, it's almost like I've never jumped away from coaching. I played, but I think I kind of transitioned into that management mentor coach phase where, I kind of try to help navigate, young minds and kind of help them kind of see things differently. And, with lifestyle marketing kind of now, it's kind of, I try to, with the clients that I work with, is I try to navigate what they like to do, their endeavors, their likes and dislikes. And I try to, put them on paths with companies and different things that I think are, fit in line with what they do.
Right.
So that's kind of the fun thing with that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And one of the things as you're talking is that your ability to recognize opportunity, whether that's with Popeyes and everybody's coming to eat over at your house
at my spot, right? Yeah.
Right. Or the motion deal, like, oh, I can't do it, but I can get, and then you go in it. Here's an opportunity. Like having the ability to see that opportunity or see talent, get people recruited, align an industry or a product with a person who actually loves to use that product, and there's an alignment and a transaction made.
Sure.
Where's the magic in that? How do you figure that out?
You know what? I really couldn't tell you. It's just one of those things where I'm like, you know what? Let me put this person with this person. And, I've done a lot of stuff with reality TV. So I used to do marketing for a high-end clothing brand called Rebel Spirit Clothing. That's when they had all like the flashy stuff on there. So that's when the Jersey Shore kind of started out. So I sent product to those guys season 1, and then all of a sudden season 2, I got direct contact with them. And from season 2 through the very end, they wore my stuff.
Right.
It was a Chinese-owned company, and they would always tell me, why do you keep sending to these same guys? I'm like, watch what it does for your sales.
That's right.
And sure enough, when Jersey Shore would debut on MTV, they went from like 3,000 to 5,000 online to 40,000, 50,000.
Wow.
Just by seeing what's on there. So my claim to fame with those guys, working with Pauly D and Ronnie, Snooki and all those girls was it got so big that clubs in New York would post signs saying, if it's on the Jersey Shore, it's not coming through the door.
Right.
So we're talking about $200 button-up woven, all sophisticated. You can't even go in there.
Right.
Because they made it was such a popular show and everybody they're like, oh, you look like all those guys on the Jersey Shore. You can't come in over here.
Right.
So
right.
So I thought that was funny, but it's just, I would get calls from my girl that worked at MTV, Jen, and she would be like, they're fighting over you today. I'm like, what are you talking about? Everybody came out in a Rebel Spirit piece of clothing and everybody laughed.
Right.
So for me, it's kind of fun to kind of have those kind of moments with the reality TV, with Jersey Shore, with Zach Baggins.
I mean, connecting transactions and opportunity, right, John?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of see things before they happen. And I like to think outside the box. There's certain things that just make sense completely. And then there's things that you kind of pair together, whether it's a deal for Manny Pacquiao or, we're doing something with Boyz II Men. It's just kind of something different that you kind of bring to the table, and that's kind of why they want you around. This the different things that you kind of bring to the table. And again, everything goes back to relationships.
Say that again. That's a life lesson in itself.
It's not, it's not who you know, it's whom with the plural, WHOM, whom you know. So it's just one of those things. You have to know people to kind of get things done, and you've got to be credible. you can't burn people. I've seen over the years, people put in requests for product and the product never gets the talent, and then there that goes. So one thing I could always hang my hat on is I was always true to my word, and I did the best I could to get things done. So you can never fault anybody for that, So that's kind of a fun thing. So what I've kind of done in my later years recently is I kind of, taken to cultivating a lot of the players and talent of Hawaii and Polynesia to kind of do that. So that's why I started working with Kolten Wong. He's a free agent now, back-to-back Gold Glove winner. So he's in the midst of his free agency. So for him, we're doing a lot of deals with him and all the other. There's probably about 5 or 6 other guys that are from Hawaii that are in MLB or on their way up. There's about 5 or 6 coaches, and with the football side of things, with Manti Te'o and some other guys that are doing some things. And it's just kind of been fun over the years to kind of cultivate, like, I'm like the Hawaii guy. TV stations will call me to get information, and it's kind of fun to kind of have that pipeline and kind of navigate and kind of help those guys, navigate their lifestyle and the different things they like. These young kids like different clothing brands and different accessories, and so for me, I try to align myself with the right people to kind of, get some things done for those guys. It's good. So, it's good. Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish.
No, so I think a lot of the stuff too is good that a lot of these guys will give back to the community. I know with Kolten, we just did a deal with we just wrapped it up. It was a year-long promotion called the with Young's Fish Market. They have 2 locations in Oahu, and we had Make-A-Wish Hawaii come in, and we donated $1 a plate. So Kolten had a plate called the Gold Glove plate. So they sold 4,300 plates. So they donated $4,300 to Make-A-Wish Hawaii.
Awesome.
It happened like 2 weeks ago. So that was kind of a cool thing that, a lot of these sports guys, they just get notarized for what they do on ESPN, and that they don't realize the philanthropic side and how they give back to the community. So for me, that's kind of the big part that I like to see, is showing that they do have a human side to them, that they want to give back and give to the youth. And, that's a kind of what I've always done with the things that I do, is give back to the kids,
right?
All for the youth, whether, you're one of the players with me, or now, just how to navigate things. So I always tell people, if you're along for the ride, let's get this money, whether, when my nephews were when I was coaching my nephews, everybody that was on that ride got to eat. So they all got scholarships, and 2 of the kids are playing. So Josh Perkins is a free agent now, tight end. He was with the Eagles the last 2 years. Dwayne Washington's a running back with the New Orleans Saints. He was with them the last 2 years, so they're free agents, both year 5. So they were both receivers for me at Gar.
Wow.
And so I kind of navigated their career. They both got committed early to University of Washington. Johnny Nansen, another Samoan coach, one of my good friends, he was responsible for getting those 2 guys up to UW. And, I helped them get their agents, and, I helped them with the marketing deal. So for me, it's kind of fun to kind of be able to cultivate a kid from high school to college to the NFL to life.
No, that's awesome.
So there's not a lot of people that they get to string those things along that
that's
train.
right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of fun. And then with my nephews, I kind of did the same thing. So my nephews, I coached them from 3rd grade on and through high school and their college. And then, they're doing big things now. Like my nephew, Corey, the one that went to University of Hawaii to play quarterback, he was at Stant Sox for a long time, and I was at Igloo Coolers doing all the licensing and marketing kind of stuff. And then my other nephew, Casey, same kind of path, went to play at Lindenwood. And after that, he did a couple of different jobs, and he's been at Adidas for the last 4 years. Man, so they're kind of following, and so it's kind of cool to have them, pull them along and kind of help guide their careers. It's the family business at this point. I mean, it's all sports marketing and entertainment marketing. So, they were with me at all the different stops that I made, working with the different groups and entertainment wise that I had. So that's kind of a fun thing to kind of string them along, and then, be able to continue that string with some of the guys that I coached in high school to pro. So for me, it seems amazing. like one big long ride. I mean, it's kind of funny to sit back and look at, because it's not in sections. To me, this feels like one long wave.
Right.
Like the wave dies down and it picks right back up. So it's really, the wave hasn't crashed. The wave just kind of keeps moving,
Yeah, so welcome to the Coach V Show, your show for personal and professional development. We are here with Brother Jon Nielsen, here where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. And I would be remiss if I did not shout out my man, Joey Kenga, Brother King, who called me and hit me up and he goes, V, I got a guy that just ties stuff together, has relationships and tentacles all over the place.
Yes.
You got to hear this dude's story. So shout out to man Q. And in that, John, I wanted to ask you because I've been around a couple of great quarterbacks at the collegiate level during my tenure at Boise State. And 3 in particular that during my time there was a guy named Ryan Dinwiddie. He's now up in Canada.
I remember Dinwiddie. Yep.
Yeah, RD.
Dinwiddie.
He was a starter there when I was a grad assistant, and then Jared Zabransky, and then Kellen Moore. And so all of these guys, right? I almost hearing you talk and being able to recognize, right? I would hear these great coaches who are offensive guys at Boise State. It's like, hey, this is how easy it is. The corner drops, throw the flat. If the corner sits, throw the curl or throw the seam, right? It just seems like as I'm getting to know you more and more, you can make that read as a business person, as a mentor, right? And helping a kid figure out what's the best place to go to college, but then also make the amount of transactional revenue that you've made money-wise with the level of people in sports and entertainment. I mean, because I met the dudes from Boys to Men. I met Sean. I met those guys at the Christmas concert because Q was up here and he was like, hey, let's go watch Boys to Men. And me and my wife were like, we love to.
All right, let's
go.
The
tickets now. We got it. So I mean, those captured some really amazing people. So you tie your recognition with your talent skill set. You started one transaction and people start to trust you, and then it doesn't happen like right away, but then Jon Nielsen is like, bam. I mean, what is that? I think it's Clarence Avant. I mean, you're the deal maker. You ever watch that movie, The Black Godfather? That deal, you got to watch that on Netflix. Where Clarence Avant is just like the guy who you sound like that guy for now the Hawaii, right? The people that you know. I mean, talk about that, having that record. And I know you said, no, I really don't know what it is. But I mean, give up the juice. I mean, what do you see? What's the secret of Jon Nielsen to recognize opportunity and then connect it and then have it make Jersey Shore kind of money?
Right? It's trust. It's trust. It's how people rely on you to come through with things. You know, look at a million people coming and say, I could do this, I could do that. And again, right. You got to know this. A lot of people there's no follow through. So I would say I have strong follow through. Does that make sense? So I got a good stroke with that. A lot of people make a lot of things up, empty promises, and this industry is full of it. Sports side, entertainment side. So I think that you're as good as your name, and you put your name on it. Over the years, those things matter. And again, it's a funny story with Q. So Q and I talked forever about trying to get Sean on his show, and it was probably a good 5 years, to be honest. And
5 years.
5 years.
Now Sean thinks the world of Q, right? Now Sean and Q are like boys.
Let me tell you how fast it went. So, you know, I told Sean, when the time's right, you know, they're torn, they're on short, they're doing everything. So the pandemic hit, and I'm like, hey, why don't you go on my man's show? All right, cool. So literally, they hooked it up. He went on Q show. They talked off air, and Sean expressed to him, hey, I want to do a show. Bang, bang, bang. It was done within a week. Sean had a show on
Q's
Dash.
producing Sean Stockman's show from Boys to Men, right?
So it happened like this.
Right.
And I don't know if that would have happened 5 years prior.
Right.
So the time wasn't right. So the time was right when it happened. And when it hit quick. So that's why you were able to go. And it literally went like this. It went from 0 to 100 fast. Q pitched it to Ski, and Ski was like, yeah, but it was done.
Man, so now you're talking some other things that you're great at, right? So you can recognize, but you can actually freaking execute. Yeah. Right. And then because you do talk great game, right? At first you're like, what? And then, but you over deliver, right?
Right. I mean,
So talk about that. What about, how about the anxiety that starts? I want to get the timing too, how the timing for a business deal works for you and what you've
Oh,
experienced. But first, let's go over just the ability that when it's time to produce, and then the
sure,
people that are making these clothes somewhere in another country, and you're like, why
sure.
do you keep sending Jersey Shores all these clothing? And then it hits, and you're like, that's why. Talk
Yeah.
about that, John. Execution.
Execution is key. So you're only as good as your resources, right? So I can pitch you a deal, but if I don't have product to give you something, then what does it matter?
Mm,
So with the Jersey Shore stuff, the owners were like, how come we spend too much money? We send same people. I was like, listen, here's what's going to
right.
happen. And sure enough, they hit. And then it got really messed up when I was like, hey, we need to keep about 10% of that money that you're making a month and set it aside so we can start, throwing parties and, giving these guys some cash because they're wearing the stuff for free. We're not paying it. They're not paid endorsed. So I was like, you're making 50 racks. Just put 5 aside so I can
Right.
throw a party and do different things. So they did a little bit, but they got to the point where they made that part of their business model. They
Right.
were relying on the online sales when before it was never part of the equation.
Right.
So, and I probably blew off 6 figures from working with other companies at that time because everybody knew that I had in with the Jersey Shore, and they were like, "Hey, could we get stuff? Could we get stuff on them?" And
Right.
I
Right.
just
Right.
didn't.
Right.
And
Right.
I was like, "Nah, we're good." I mean, I if I was really smart back then, I would have been like, "Hey, give me 10, give me 10 racks.
Yeah.
I'll get it on the show, bang, bang, bang." So I mean, I would have done all those things. So I think it's more or less. It's a relationship, and again, the guys trusted me to get them good stuff. They knew that I wasn't going to give them stuff that was whack. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I lace them with their Jordans. They never had Jordans, so I was the first guy to give those guys Jordan. Now they have their big sneakerhead guys now, but I was the one
Mm-hmm.
that kind of gave them that first taste of what it was like to get some free product. So that's kind of the fun thing with those things. It's just relationships in the game. And I've been blessed with people that I've known for a long time that have my back, and I have access to a lot of things that most people don't. And I don't, and a lot of it, we don't talk about, which is kind of cool to talk about it with you, but we don't talk about certain things.
Right.
People that know, but some people, like these young kids, have no clue on
Right.
what's going on with sneaker culture or any of that
Right.
stuff. So it just kind of makes me laugh to kind of, let people put stuff on Front Street. It's like, okay, we cool. Congratulations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just fun, but especially with the age of social media, it's just instant gratification. Everybody
Mm.
just tries to throw stuff out there. You know.
And then talk about how sometimes it does. You talked about the Q story. It took a
Oh yeah,
while to
cute.
make
Yeah,
that connection, right?
about
And
5 years.
then,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it takes time. Everything has its season. Talk about
sure,
timing and having the patience to tell your client and the possible opportunity, hey, it's going to come. You got to hang with me and
sure.
trust me on this deal. Talk about that, please, John.
Yeah, well, again, it just comes down to the trust factor. I mean, if you tell someone, the deal's not going to get done quickly, it's going to get done, but it's not going to get done in this time frame.
Right.
Whether it's an investment for your client and something else. One of the companies was, hey, pushing, let me get this deal done. Let me get the money to you. I was like, well, listen, he takes his time with things. You got to kind of let it marinate. It's going to get done, but just on his time. So you
Right.
got to you got to be able to kind of play both sides and make everybody feel like no one's getting pressured. And, because a lot of people could screw things up, by demanding certain things, and the wrong information's relayed. They take it the wrong way. Those things matter. So you have to have someone that kind of smooth both sides of the party. So I think that being able to talk to both sides equally is important in any deal.
Right.
So in negotiation, you got to be able to know what they want, and kind of make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not for everybody, because some people just don't have the patience. They don't understand how it works. And then when things kind of happen, Hollywood is hurry up and wait. I'm sure you've
Right.
heard that. Hurry up and wait.
Say
Whether
that
you're on a
again.
movie set or
Say
whatever.
that so the audience can hear that.
Yeah. Hurry up and wait. So it means get your butt down here and wait for an hour before we shoot.
Right.
Hurry. Oh, we're not going to shoot for an hour. So hurry up and wait is an adage in Hollywood everybody uses. Everybody knows that. Hurry up and wait. Get them out of makeup. Get them out of wardrobe. Let's go. Hurry up and wait.
Right.
So it's one of those things we got to be patient. Things take time, but I think that when you invest and you put the right people together is when the magic happens. And I was blessed and here's kind of, I'll tell one more quick story. I was blessed with my internship was basically with New Edition. So I knew somebody that knew Ricky Bell. So
Right.
Ricky and I talked, and this is right before in 2004 when they signed with Bad Boy with Universal. So they signed with Universal and didn't realize Puffy had no money for their tour, for their promotion. So
Right.
that became my internship, was giving those guys clothes, Sean John, all these different things, Fat Farm, all these different things that I was doing. Snoop Dogg clothing when Snoop had his clothing line.
Right.
So I started my internship with New Edition. So Ricky brought me into the mix at the Universal Hotel. They had a show at the Gibson, and I got to meet everybody. I got to meet Ralph and everybody. So I took my nephew Corey with me. We got a hotel room there, and I had all the boxes of swag for him. So I gave it to him, and I had bought tickets to the show. Didn't worry about comps or whatever at that time. So I got everybody lined up, and Corey and I are in the lobby, and we see Brooke Payne, who was their manager.
Mm-hmm.
And Brooke's like, "Hey, here," gave us 2 wristbands. So that's how that whole thing started. So from that point on, I was like the intern wardrobe clothing guy for New Edition. And that's how I got to meet Big Paul. I know you had Big Paul on the show.
Oh, I heard this legendary story. So tell it.
Yeah, so I know Big Paul. So Big Paul, he was at Universal for a long time. So he was actually in charge of taking the boys around to do press and these different things. So he and I got to spend a lot of time at, when we taped the Soul Train and Jimmy Kimmel and all these different radio and TV things, and with Michelle Visage, and it was fun. And he and I hit it off, and I took care of him. He got laced with Jordans. Big Paul would tell you that he loved that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So so that was kind of my whole thing with them. And then our PR person, Heidi Bush at It Girl for New Edition, the boys contacted her about they needed some stuff for a photo shoot they're doing for Dub magazine, and I said sure. And I styled him for a Dub magazine shoot in 2005.
Wow.
And the rest is history. So they had a new manager. Joe Mulvihill came on and started managing them. And he said, "Hey," we sat down, had lunch on Sunset. He's like, "Hey, the boys like you. We got to find a way to figure out to put you on payroll." And 15 years, almost 16 years now later, I'm still doing stuff with them. So for me, and this is the big year for Boyz II Men, because this is the 30th anniversary of them coming out in 91. So, wow. So for me to be part of more than half of their career is pretty cool to me, because longest job I've ever had.
Right.
We're 16 years in, and it's kind of cool to be able to be part of that history with that. And so many different things have branched off of that whole Boyz II Men and over the years. So, I was a bridge. I went from New Edition to Boyz II Men, and it's been a fun process with that.
So as a quarterback, and you alluded to it prior to the New Edition story, like this,
Sure.
communication, right?
Yeah.
Hurry up and wait, right? And I mean, that's your deal as the quarterback, right? Is you get the signals, right?
Sure.
We peer it in the helmet, you call a huddle, and then you direct.
Yeah, well, here's my
about
thing.
How big is communication in Hollywood deals? Like the who, what, where, when, how, and why.
Of course.
Right.
So basically, I live my life by this. So I'm a run and shoot guy. So if you look up the run and shoot, you have June Jones.
Yeah.
You have John Jenkins. You have Mouse Davis. You have Jack Pardee. These different guys. So basically, the run and shoot is a multiple adjusting offense.
Yes, sir.
So there's a couple set routes, and then you have 2 or 3 guys that adjust according to coverage. So I always say, I'm this is my offense. This is my life. So
this is your whole life, right?
This is my life. So I'm able to move on the run. Right. So, if it's zone, I'm gonna sit it down. If it's man, I'm gonna break you. If it's man, I'm beating you deep. So So I live my life as a run and shoot. So I multiple adjust everything. So nothing. So I don't get stonewalled.
I love that multiple adjust.
So what everything you throw my way, I got an answer for, and that's the beauty of it.
Yes,
so
sir.
For me, so when you talk about sports and life, that's the biggest thing that I took is I'm a run and shoot guy for life, because everything is multiple adjusting. You got your constants. You know you're gonna die at some point. So it's what you do in between. How do you adjust to this? How do you adjust to that? So we know what the game is set at. So it's what you do in between, how you navigate, how you adjust, how you game plan for what the defense throws you. And you never know what life's going to throw you today, tomorrow. You got to kind of deal with things daily. So when these things get thrown at you, you kind of deal with it. Whether it's a client you have as a problem, you got to deal with it, and that's just how it adjusts. And
That's
we kind
right.
of do this or we do that.
That's awesome. So we have about 3 to 4 minutes before we get into the Coach V hot seat, Brother Jon.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'd like to give you a few minutes just to say what you need to say. What would you like to talk about, promote, or take your time, shout outs, whatever you want to do? Here's the segment for that.
Yeah, well, shout outs, obviously, Boys to Men.
Yep.
That's how we ride.
That's right.
We have a residency in Las Vegas at the Mirage Hotel.
Yeah, baby.
That's going to hopefully get back going summer. So that's been a blessing. Obviously Kolten Wong, everything we're doing with him.
Mm-hmm.
YK Water, which you're gonna get your pack. You're gonna get your boxes coming soon.
Oh, Coach V loves some YK water, baby.
Yeah. We got to keep you hydrated. So YK has been great. They brought me on to kind of help do some marketing stuff during the whole pandemic. So for me, it's been a blessing with those guys, and they have a lot of initiatives they're giving back to the community, and that's kind of fun. Obviously, Kolten's got some deals with Deuce Band.
Mm-hmm.
So Deuce is big. So there's just some promotional things that we're doing with that. Baseballism is big. It's that exclusive Ichiro shirt.
That's
everybody's
awesome.
Probably looking at that.
Yeah.
The little fitted Mua hat. Shout out to my dude Ola, Travis.
Yeah.
Baseballism. It's just fun stuff to do, and I don't get on a lot of these things to kind of, I guess you'd call it a flex. It's kind of fun to get out there and talk. Because a lot of time what I've realized too is you get older, and the young people don't know your story. So this is kind of cool to get back on here and tell. Yeah, and but here's the deal. You think people know like your deal, and then they don't.
That's right.
It's almost fun to kind of make people kind of recognize like, hey, we've done this before. You know what I mean? We've been here. These are the kind of guys behind the scenes that are kind of doing these different things. So for me, it's kind of fun to be able to do that. And, especially like to reconnect with people that you haven't worked with in over a decade, to kind of come back and, pick right back up where you left off. So for me, relationships, and I kind of, I preach this to my kids: relationships turn to scholarships. And I kind of do that with the softball team that I run. I run an independent team called the Athletics, and half of my girls come from Hawaii, 3 are from Oahu, and 3 are from Kauai. So, my daughter committed to play University of Hawaii, and my goal is to get every single one of my 12 girls scholarships.
That's awesome.
So for me, that's kind of the fun thing. So I've taken my blueprint from what I do here, and I turn that into the softball world. So, I've worked with a lot of these pro girls. I happen to know a lot of Power 5 coaches that I do some different things with. And, it's just been kind of fun to kind of navigate that, take my expertise and what I've done and put that into travel softball. So that's kind of the fun thing. And those, like I said, those things turn into scholarships and relationships. And that's why, to have their parents trust me, it's kind of cool too. I mean, if, my whole thing is if I got people that are millionaires that trust me for advice, you should probably roll with me for your daughter, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I got 2 questions before we start the hot seat. Number 1, what about all that ice? Where does Jon get that ice from? You got some bling going on there.
Well, 2 things. So I'm an Aries. So this is my birthstone. This is all MSK. This is just a little diamond joint. I don't have the big JN piece that I normally have. That's kind of that's a little too much for people these days.
No, when we go in studio, when COVID drops and we go in studio, can you come in studio for your deal with that?
Yeah, we'll come and I'll bring the whole fun stuff. Yeah, we'll bring the whole stuff. But my dude MSK, Mike does that. He's like he does all the celebrity stuff. He hooks up all the guys. So yeah, he's done my stuff for 20 plus years.
That's awesome. and so here's a warm up to the Coach V hot seat.
Sure.
I mean, Jon Nielsen, what is life about? What is life about?
Life is about touching people's life at different points. Life is about being in touch with someone for whatever short run we're going to have together, is making that, is maximizing that and enjoying that short time, because it's not going to come back. And I think the older you get, you realize that more, that when you're in the moment, you don't really recognize it. So you want to kind of, when you pull that string, I want to be part of everybody I work with and attach with. I want to be part of their journey, and to know that I'm fully invested in that time. whether it's year, 10 years, 15 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, one day. You want to make sure that you kind of ride that light wave and you enjoy every moment of what's going on, the process, how you got here, and the different things with that. So, like the whole thing with Q and Sean, that was kind of fun for me because again, it was R&B and island music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those two things are cool, but they're not really, it wasn't done a lot. So for me, that was kind of a fun thing to kind of have happen and to kind of have Sean and Q hit it off and kind of go on that venture together. And, and I was lazy. I never got down to the studio before the pandemic hit, So, you kick yourself like, I should have went down there and messed around in the studio.
Oh, we're going to get in studio.
Oh,
I'm
no,
gonna
for
get
sure.
Jon Nielsen in the studio on Hollywood Boulevard, baby.
You see, I'm not scared to talk, so it's kind of a good thing. So.
Oh, and you got a great story, Coach.
Yeah.
I mean, whether
so it's fun. So I think that what I would tell young people too is just enjoy the process, enjoy the struggle, get uncomfortable. And a lot of people are like, what do you mean? Do things that make you uncomfortable. Like if everything was easy, there's no fun to that, right? If everything became easy and everything there's no challenge, So I think for me, getting cut and released so many times that built my character. I mean, I sat in front of, like you and I are talking, I sat in front of GMs and told them they were stupid. Like I would break it down and what I told them actually happened. So it's kind of like, they were probably thinking in the back of their head, like, damn, this kid knows what he's talking about. So, have passion. And I think when you're an athlete, the biggest thing is to live in the now. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Concentrate on the present. So, we talk about Michael Jordan. You want to be present. You want to be in the moment. And I think that people don't realize that because they're worried about this, that, and the other. So that's why for me, Tom Brady, winning and doing these things, because, he's a 43-year-old quarterback. I'm in my 40s. So for me, I'm pulling for him. But his ability to be in the moment is what's kept him playing all these years. That's why MJ was so good, because he was able to play in the moment. The moment he was in the moment. He didn't worry about anything that was going to happen. I'm here. I'm here. I'm soaking everything in. So like with this, I mean, you want to just be present and not tomorrow's not. People say tomorrow's never given. You want to be present in everything you're doing and everything have a purpose.
All right. So we got about 2 minutes to get this hot seat in, 2 to 3 minutes. Here's the first phrase, a Coach V quote that says, what happens, Jon, to you, me, and we matters, but what matters more is how you respond. 1 minute.
How you respond to what? Say that one more time.
So what happens to you, me, and we matters, but what matters more is how you respond. Your thoughts.
True. So my thoughts are, so really everything is actionary, right? So there's a cause and reaction on everything. So it's really how you deal with things that come your way at that moment. Again, this goes back to the whole this goes back to the whole run and shoot philosophy. So I'm gonna adjust on anything that's thrown my way, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm good. I'm gonna adjust and I'm gonna get through that. Especially with the politics, all this stuff that's going on. There's a lot of stuff that makes you angry, but what can you do to kind of help those things? You want to kind of navigate and deal with things as they come at you daily. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. That's a good one. I like that. Because you're all about, Jon's all about multiple adjust. I wrote that down.
You have to. Multiple adjusting is the way to go. Yes.
Yep. Okay. We've talked about it slightly, but not much, is family. Family is everything. When I say that, 100%. Jon, what do you think about?
Oh, families for sure. You got to protect your own. Again, I first thing I think I talked about earlier was you realize nobody cares. That's another thing that a lot of my pro friends talk about. Nobody cares. People don't care about you. Management, coaches, whatever. You're a commodity. So I think that family, ohana, is everything. You got to protect yours, and you ride with the people that are in your circle. And as you get older, your circle gets smaller. But so you kind of, it's one of those things where you hold everybody tight and you want the best for them.
I like that. I like that. Final question on the Coach V hot seat. And this is an old school phrase. You've alluded to it a little bit already in terms of being in the present. But here's a saying: time and tide wait for no man. Your thoughts?
100%. Father Time is undefeated. So
Mm.
you got to get what you want. So another run and shoot at it, another run and shoot thing. So my coach would always say, people always say, take what the defense gives you.
Right.
My guy John Jenkins said, "Oh hell no, Hoss, take what you want.
Take what you want.
Take what you want." And I always tell my kids, take what you want. Take what you want in life, or it's going to pass you by. So your opportunity comes, you better be ready to go. So preparation, those different things. But I always tell people, take what you want. Don't just take what's given to you. You know what you want? Go take it. Like, what do you mean? Well, you want this money? Go take it. How do you take it? Well, you go push for what you think your value is. So again, take what you want. Don't just be happy with take what the defense gives you. You got to take your shots. Take what you want.
I love that. I love that. Brother Jon Nielsen, thank you so much for coming on the Coach V Show. Any final thoughts before we send out?
Man, I just appreciate you having me on, telling my story, and I look forward to coming in studio for sure.
Yeah, baby. Let's do that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Thank you, Brother Jon, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in, especially with this new visual platform that we got going on via Zoom until we get back in studio.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach V Show feature of Brother Jon Nielsen, because really it is of great importance for each of us to better ourselves, just not for the sake of achieving success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities and that anything that we dream and work for can be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, Hollywood radio show host, and author lives, all about faith and family.
Oh, yes.
Grateful for God's amazing grace. Thank you for tuning in again to your boy, Coach V, and Brother Jon Nielsen here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together, we rise. Peace.